What if the thing that's been hurting you the most isn't the situation, isn't the person, isn't even the problem itself? What if it's the way you've been trained to react to it? Stay with me here, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand something about yourself that most people will go their entire lives never realizing. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. Hey, welcome back. If you're new here, I'm really glad you found this. And if you've been here before, you already know we don't do surface level stuff on this channel. We go deep, we go real. We talk about the things that actually matter. Today, we're diving into a book that I honestly believe could change the way you move through the world. It's called Stop Letting Everything Affect You by Daniel Chidiac. And look, the title alone might sound simple, maybe even a little obvious, like, yeah, don't let things bother you, got it. But that's not what this book is about, not even close. This book is about something much deeper. It's about understanding why you keep getting pulled into things that drain you, why certain words from certain people can ruin your entire day, why you can know, logically, that something doesn't matter and still feel completely destroyed by it. That gap between what you know and what you feel, that's exactly what Daniel Chidiac is talking about. If you find value in what we do here, hit that like button and subscribe. It genuinely helps more people find this content. Okay, let's get into it. Chapter 1. The Invisible Chain. Imagine this. You wake up in the morning. The sun is coming through the window. You feel okay, maybe even good. You make your coffee. The day feels like it has possibility. And then, your phone buzzes. It's a message. Maybe it's a passive-aggressive comment from someone. Maybe it's bad news. Maybe it's just someone in a bad mood, taking it out on you with a few careless words. And just like that, the coffee tastes different. The sun doesn't feel as warm. The whole day shifts. You're in your head now, replaying the message, analyzing the tone, wondering what you did wrong, feeling the tightness in your chest. Sound familiar? Here's what Daniel Chidiac wants you to understand right at the very beginning of this book. That reaction, that automatic shift, isn't just a feeling. It's a pattern. A deeply ingrained pattern that has been forming inside you for years, maybe decades, and it's running your life. He says most people walk around every single day with what he calls an open nervous system. Think of it like this. Imagine your emotions as a house, and the windows and doors of that house are wide open. Anyone who walks by can throw something in. A criticism, a look, a silence, an unkind word, and it lands inside you, and it stays there. You didn't choose to let it in. You didn't consciously decide to carry it. But you do, all day, sometimes all week. The question isn't whether things will happen to you. They will. People will say things. Life will disappoint you. Plans will fall apart. The real question, the one this entire book is built around, is this. How much of your inner peace are you willing to hand over to things outside of your control? Most people have never even asked themselves that question. They've just been reacting, their whole lives. Chapter 2. You were taught to feel this way. Now here's the part that most people never talk about. You weren't born like this. Think about that for a second. A baby doesn't hold grudges. A toddler can go from crying to laughing in 30 seconds. Children are naturally present, naturally resilient. So what happened? Daniel Chidiac explains that somewhere along the way, we were conditioned by our families, by our environments, by every experience that taught us what was safe and what was dangerous, what deserved our emotional energy and what threatened our sense of belonging. Let me give you an example. Imagine a child who grows up in a household where criticism is constant, where love feels conditional, where getting something wrong means getting a cold shoulder or a harsh word. That child learns, deep in their nervous system, that other people's moods and opinions are a matter of survival. They have to track them. They have to manage them. They have to make sure everyone around them is okay, because when someone isn't okay, something bad might happen. Fast forward 20 years. That child is now an adult. Maybe it's you, maybe it's someone you know, and they're still doing it, still monitoring, still tracking every tone of voice, still shrinking when someone disapproves, still spiraling when they feel criticized.
But now, there's no real threat. Nobody's going to take away dinner. Nobody's withdrawing love. It's just an old program, still running.
And this is where everything changes. Because Daniel says something that sounds almost too simple, but lands like a thunderbolt. You can't change a pattern you don't know exists. The moment you recognize that your reactions aren't fully you, that they're a learned response, a conditioned habit, that's the moment you take back just a little bit of your power. Not all of it, not overnight, but a little. And a little is where it starts. Chapter 3: The emotional cost you keep paying. Let's slow down here for a moment, because this is important. Think about the last time something really got to you, really got under your skin. Maybe someone said something dismissive. Maybe you were left out of something. Maybe you worked incredibly hard and no one noticed. How long did you carry that? An hour? A day? A week? Here's what Daniel Chidiac makes painfully clear in this part of the book. Every time you let something affect you, every time you replay the conversation, every time you lose sleep over someone's opinion, every time your mood gets hijacked by an event outside your control, you are paying a cost. And most people don't even realize they're paying it. He compares it to a leak in your house. One tiny drip. You barely notice it. But every day, the water damage spreads. Every week, the foundation weakens a little more. And one day you look around and wonder, why does this house feel so unstable? The leak isn't dramatic. It's not a flood. It's just constant. And that's what chronic emotional reactivity does to a person. It's not one big breakdown. It's 1,000 small drains. 1,000 little moments where your peace leaked out because you let the outside world come inside. Right now, you might be thinking, okay, but some things genuinely deserve my emotional response. Some things matter. And you're right. Daniel Chidiac is not telling you to be numb. He's not telling you to stop caring. He's not saying don't feel things. He's saying this. There's a difference between a response and a reaction. A response comes from a place of awareness. You feel something, you acknowledge it, and then you choose how to engage with it. A reaction is automatic. It bypasses your logic. It happens before you even know it's happening. Someone says one word, and you're already 5 steps into a story your brain made up. Most of us are reacting all day long and calling it living. Chapter 4: The Gap, where your power lives. Here's a concept from this book that I keep coming back to. Daniel talks about something he calls the gap. It's that tiny space between what happens to you and how you respond to it. Just a moment, sometimes less than a second. But that gap, that's where your entire life is decided. Viktor Frankl, the famous psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, said something similar. He said, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." Daniel Chidiac builds an entire practice around this idea. Because here's what most of us do. We collapse that gap completely. Something happens, and we're already reacting before we've even processed it. Someone cuts us off in traffic, and we're angry for the next 20 minutes. Someone gives us a backhanded compliment, and we're replaying it for 3 days. The gap disappears. But what if you could widen it? What if, just for a second, before you react, you could pause? Even slightly. Daniel says that pause is a skill, not a personality trait, not something you either have or you don't. It's something you can build, practice, strengthen. He gives a powerful exercise in this section of the book, and it's so simple it almost feels like cheating. The next time something triggers you, a message, a comment, a situation, before you do anything, ask yourself 3 questions. 1. Is this actually about me? Or is this about the other person's pain, stress, or fear? 2. Will this matter to me in 5 years? Be honest. 3. What response right now would I actually be proud of? 3 questions. That's the gap. You don't need to answer them perfectly. You don't need a long meditation retreat. You just need 3 questions, and the willingness to pause long enough to ask them. Try that starting today. 1 situation. Just 1. See what happens.
Chapter 5. Other people are not your mirror. Okay, this is the part I want you to really sit with, because I think this might be the most important idea in the entire book. We have this habit, deeply human, deeply universal, of using other people as mirrors. If someone praises us, we feel good about ourselves. If someone criticizes us, we feel small. If someone ignores us, we question our worth. If someone is cold, we wonder what we did wrong. We're constantly outsourcing our self-perception to the people around us. And Daniel Chidiac says, with so much compassion, that this is one of the most exhausting ways to live. Imagine you're an artist, and every morning, before you decide whether your work is good or not, you have to check what 10 different people think. Some of them love it. Some of them don't understand it. Some of them are having a bad day and hate everything. Some of them have completely different taste than you. And you add all of their opinions together, and that sum becomes your self-worth for the day. That sounds exhausting, right? That sounds unstable, like building a house on sand. But isn't that what most of us do with our identity every single day? Here's what he says, and this is the part that hit me. Other people's opinions of you are a reflection of their inner world, not yours. When someone is harsh, it's because something inside them is harsh. When someone is dismissive, it's because something inside them feels small. When someone projects their insecurities onto you, it says everything about where they are, and almost nothing about who you are. Now, this doesn't mean you should never listen to feedback. It doesn't mean every critique is meaningless. But there's a difference between useful information and emotional ammunition. Useful information helps you grow. You can hear it, evaluate it, decide whether it's true, and use it. Emotional ammunition? That's someone else's unprocessed pain aimed at your heart, and you have every right to let it miss. Now here's the part nobody talks about, because it's not enough to just understand this intellectually. You can nod along to all of this, you can feel the truth of it, and then you can walk out the door, and the first time someone says something unkind, you're right back in the spiral. So Daniel Chidiac asks a harder question. Why do we keep going back? Why do we know something doesn't serve us and still let it in? And his answer is both beautiful and a little confronting. Chapter 6. The Identity Trap. We hold on to our reactions because they're part of who we think we are. Read that again, slowly. We've built an identity around our sensitivity, around our ability to feel everything deeply. Maybe we've been told our whole lives, you're too sensitive. Maybe we've decided that our emotional intensity is what makes us real, what makes us caring, what makes us human. And Daniel isn't telling you to give that up, but he draws a sharp distinction. Feeling deeply is a gift. Being controlled by your feelings is a trap. You can be a deeply feeling person, someone who loves with everything they have, who notices beauty in small things, who cares intensely about the people in their life, and still not let every passing comment destroy your day. Those two things are not in conflict. The problem is when we've confused our sensitivity with our identity, when letting things go starts to feel like betraying who we are,
when staying calm starts to feel like we don't care enough. Here's a question for you, and I want you to sit with this one honestly. Is there a part of you that believes you should be affected by certain things? That reacting strongly is somehow more authentic, more real? Because that belief, quiet as it is, might be the very thing keeping you stuck. Chapter 7. Building your inner fortress. So now we get to the part of the book where Daniel Chidiac starts to give us something to build. Because this book isn't just about understanding your pain, it's about constructing a new way of moving through the world. He talks about building what he calls an inner fortress. Not walls that keep people out, not numbness, not distance. A fortress is something different. A fortress has walls, yes, but it also has a foundation. It has a core, something solid at the center that doesn't move when the storm comes. And that core, he says, is made of three things. The first is clarity of self, knowing who you are independent of anyone else's opinion, having a relationship with yourself that is strong enough to survive other people's bad days. The second is intentional attention, understanding that where your attention goes, your emotional energy flows. Most of us are pointing our attention all day long at the things that drain us. The news, the drama, the people who exhaust us, and wondering why we feel so empty.
Intentional attention means choosing, actively choosing, to point your focus toward what builds you up, what matters, what is real in your life. And the third thing is radical responsibility. Not for what happens to you, but for how you respond to it. Daniel is very clear about this, and I want you to hear it exactly the way he means it. Taking radical responsibility doesn't mean blaming yourself when bad things happen. It doesn't mean pretending the world is fair or that people always do right by you. It means saying, I cannot control what enters my world, but I can control what I do with it. That shift from victim of circumstance to author of response is not small. It's not a hack or a productivity tip. It is a completely different way of being alive. Chapter 8. The people who drain you. Let's talk about something real, because at some point in this book, Daniel turns his attention to the people in our lives. And this chapter might be the hardest one to read, not because it's heavy, but because it requires honesty. He asks, are there people in your life who consistently take from you more than they give? And I don't mean this in a transactional way. Relationships aren't ledgers, but there are people, we all know at least one, who seem to leave every interaction leaving you feeling a little less, a little more tired, a little more anxious, a little more like you have to justify your existence. And we keep these people close for all kinds of reasons: history, obligation, love, fear of conflict, fear of loneliness. Daniel Chidiac is incredibly gentle about this. He's not asking you to cut everyone off. He's not telling you that difficult people don't deserve compassion. What he's asking is this: have you been so focused on managing how other people feel that you've completely forgotten to ask how you feel? Because that's a thing that happens, especially for people who are naturally empathetic, who are good at reading rooms, who care deeply about the people around them. They become so good at absorbing everyone else's emotional weather that they lose track of their own sky. And at some point, you have to say, with love, but with clarity, I will care for you, but I will not lose myself in doing so. I want to pause here and ask you something. Honestly, what is the one relationship in your life, or the one recurring situation that you know is draining your energy, but you keep going back to anyway? Drop it in the comments. You don't have to explain it, just name it, because naming it is the first step to choosing something different. Chapter 9. When life hits hard. Now, here's where Daniel Chidiac gets into something deeper, because up until now, we've been talking about everyday emotional reactivity. The comment that stung, the person who disappointed you, the situation that didn't go the way you planned. But what about the big things? The grief, the real loss, the moment where your whole world rearranges itself. What does stop letting everything affect you mean then? And this is where I think the book becomes truly profound, because Daniel doesn't skip over this. He doesn't offer some shallow platitude like everything happens for a reason and call it a day. What he says is this: there is a difference between being affected by something and being defined by it. You are allowed to grieve. You are allowed to feel the weight of what happened to you. Real pain deserves real space. But somewhere, not right away but eventually, there comes a moment when you have to decide. Is this experience going to be the thing that breaks me, or the thing that reveals what I'm made of? He talks about a woman he met during one of his workshops. She had been through something genuinely devastating, a loss so profound that most people wouldn't have blamed her for never recovering. But she said something he never forgot. She said, "I decided that what happened to me would not become the story I tell about myself forever." That sentence, I want you to sit with that, because for so many of us, the hardest things that happened to us in our past have quietly become the story we tell ourselves about our present. I was hurt, so I don't trust people. I was rejected, so I don't put myself out there. I was abandoned, so I don't let anyone get too close. The event happened years ago, but the story is still running. And Daniel is asking, as gently and as honestly as he can, is that story still serving you? Or is it just familiar?
Chapter 10. Becoming Unshakable. We're getting close to the end now, but I saved the best for last, because this final section of the book is the one that stays with you. Daniel Chidiac talks about what it actually looks like to become someone who is unshakable. Not because nothing ever touches you, but because you've built something inside yourself that is stronger than whatever comes at you from the outside. He says, "The world will always have opinions about you. People will always have moods. Life will always have surprises. The only constant you will ever truly have is your relationship with yourself." And here's what that looks like in practice. It looks like someone who gets bad news and doesn't immediately catastrophize. They feel it, they sit with it, and then they ask, what can I actually do here? It looks like someone who gets criticized and doesn't crumble or immediately fight back. They take a breath. They ask, is there anything useful in this? And if not, can I let it go? It looks like someone who doesn't need constant validation from the outside because they've done the quiet, difficult, deeply personal work of learning to validate themselves from the inside. That person is not cold. They're not disconnected. They love deeply. They feel fully. They're just not available to be destroyed by every passing storm. And Daniel ends this section with something so simple, but so true, that I've been thinking about it ever since I read it. He says, the people who seem the most unshakable in life didn't get there by accident. They weren't born with thick skin. They didn't have easier lives. They just decided, one moment at a time, one situation at a time, to be more loyal to their own peace than to other people's chaos. Loyal to their own peace, more than to other people's chaos. So let's come back to where we started. That moment, the message that came in, the coffee that tasted different, the day that shifted. Here's what I want you to take from all of this. You are not helpless in those moments. You are not just a leaf being blown around by whatever wind comes along. You have a gap, a tiny, powerful, sacred gap between what happens to you and who you choose to be in response to it. And every time you use that gap, every time you pause, even for a second, before you react, you are doing something remarkable. You are choosing yourself, not in a selfish way, not in a way that closes you off to the world, but in the deepest way possible. You are saying, my peace matters, my presence matters, my energy is worth protecting. 5 years from now, imagine looking back at your life. What if the biggest shift wasn't a job change, or a new relationship, or a move to a new city? What if the biggest shift was simply this? You stopped handing your inner world over to every person and situation that asked for it. What if you became someone who could walk through chaos and still feel grounded? What if you became someone whose mood wasn't controlled by the weather of other people's lives? That's not a fantasy. That's not some far-off spiritual ideal. That's a choice, a practice, a series of small moments where you decide, again and again and again, to come back to yourself. Daniel Chidiac wrote this book for the people who are tired of being affected by everything, tired of carrying things that were never theirs to carry, tired of living at the mercy of a world that will never slow down enough to be gentle with them. And his message, stripped all the way down to its core, is this: you are not your reactions. You are the awareness that notices them. And in that awareness, you are already free. So the next time something happens, the next time the phone buzzes, or someone says something unkind, or life hands you something hard, pause. Breathe. Ask, does this have to come inside? And maybe, just maybe, for the first time in a long time, you'll close the door. Not in anger, not in fear, but in peace. That's the gift this book is offering you. And the only question is, are you ready to receive it? Thank you for being here today. If this video moved you even slightly, please hit that like button and subscribe. We put so much love into this content, and every share helps someone else find it who might really need it right now. Drop a comment below. I really do read them. Tell me the one thing from today that landed for you. And until next time, take care of your inner world, because it's the only one you've got.